Today, I want to welcome John Carter from Jack Lewis Jewelers. John, welcome to the podcast that I've been working on.
All right. Thanks for having me, buddy. It's an honor.
Yeah, no, John and I have known each other for a very long time. Probably we were just talking about this a little bit before we started this conversation. About 20 plus years. We've known each other through a variety of things, but yeah, we've known each other for over 20 years. And I've got to see John as his company has grown and what he's done with it. And John, yeah, let's tell the audience who you are, just your background, and about what you've done in the last 30 plus years.
Yeah, I mean, to sum up, my name is John Carter. I am the owner of Jack Lewis Jewelers, as you said, Mike. And I have kind of a non-traditional route to owning your own jewelry store. Most jewelry stores are multi-generational. I am the third generation to own Jack Lewis Jewelers, but none of us were family. So I started working here in high school, went to Illinois State, go Redbirds, and stayed all through college and worked a full-time job here. And really just kind of a long story short, then eventually became the owner. So it's been a fairly non-traditional path as far as my industry goes. Probably not that unusual in the American retail landscape, but for the jewelry industry, it's fairly rare.
So how did you, with that, you're the third generation, the third owner, not family. What got you into, or what made you interested in the jewelry business? I mean, what was that? What was the catalyst for that?
It was interesting because when I was 15 years old and I was at my high school, one of the counselors came up to me and she said, "Carter, did you have a job? Do you have a job?" And I said, "Yeah, but it's terrible. I was bussing tables, at a restaurant. You're 15. That's just what you did. And it was, it was fun. I was working hard." And she said, "How would you like to work at a jewelry store?" I said, "Yeah, that sounds better than bussing tables." And I was originally hired to do the mail and to take out the trash. And I went there first day after school thinking, okay, I'm just going to do that. And that'll be my, 5-hour shift or whatever from 4 to 9 o'clock at Eastland Mall. And at the end of it, that took me maybe an hour and a half. And then they gave me keys and they said, okay, now you wait for customers to come in. And I thought, okay, I don't know anything about jewelry, but that's just how we trained back then. It was just on the job and you just showed things. So 15 years old, learning, working with adults that were walking in to buy things to celebrate special occasions was definitely baptism by fire for sure. But it made me immediately fall in love with sales, which I already had. When you work in a restaurant, you're doing some of that anyway. And I just knew that I liked that aspect of business. And so I thought that would be a good fit. And jewelry just kind of stayed with me. And then working all through college, it was such a cool job to have. It was a flexible job. It allowed me to go to school to get my degree. It's kind of like we were like family. And then after college, I actually went on to work as a sales rep for one of our watch companies. So I went to the wholesale side of our industry and then came back a few years later to eventually own the store.
Now, did you feel like by starting at the very, what would you call it? Not the basement of the thing, but very, very basic part of it, taking out the trash, doing that for so many years, and then also stepping away from that particular business and going to where you work for a particular watch maker person to do that? Was that something that felt like that was the natural thing for most people to do, is like learn the business from the ground up and then also learn from a different perspective from an actual watchmaker?
Yeah, it's interesting because when we hire new employees now, we all take out the trash. I mean, I take out the trash still, so you're never, when it's a small business, and I'm using take out the trash as a metaphor, right? Because you're just doing the small things that it takes to keep your business going. Sometimes that's taking out the trash. Sometimes it's unloading the dishwasher. Sometimes it's, doing the mail or whatever is necessary. We all kind of specialize in different things when I hire people. It's not like I'm just hiring somebody to be a salesperson and also take out the trash and also do the mail. We've grown since those days and we have a much better structure in place for that. But at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do. But yes, to answer your question, learning it from the ground up, the nuts and bolts and the back office things that make a retail jewelry store, it definitely was something that I'm glad that I did. I would change watch batteries and size watch bands, and that's really true customer service at its most atomic level when it comes to retail. And that was a good lesson for me to learn as a 15 and 16-year-old kid.
Is it hard? I'm just curious, as you learned it, and you said it's changed since when you started in the business. As you hire people, how do you find those people that you're like, okay, you're the owner, and you're like, okay, I'm trusting people that I'm hiring to, do these things, and you expect them to do everything, take out the trash, do whatever. But it's like, how do you find your experience? Because this is a very niche area that it's like, it's very hard for someone just that's never done it before. How do you determine, from a human resources things, how do you say, oh, this person's going to be great at sales, or this person's going to be, I mean, even going to the person who you have in the back that's working on rings or watches or things that need to be fixed. How did you find those people?
Well, the technicians in our industry are the goldsmiths. That's a particular set of skills that they learn in formal training. So those, you don't just generally find those people off the street. Sometimes you get lucky and somebody falls into your lap, but generally you hire somebody maybe with the skill set to do those things, and you send them off to be trained to at a bench jeweler school. When it comes to hiring people on the sales floor, the bigger you get, the more important it is to have a specific training, and in our case, a mentoring program in place when you hire a new employee. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants as we did in those days when I was in high school. That was fine. The business was there. That worked then. It doesn't work now because there's multiple reasons. Technology is a big one, because part of training somebody is teaching them the way that you clientele, or the way that you your point of sale system. That takes time to learn. There's word skills, there's Excel skills that people need to learn. So there's a very, and then on top of that, as a jewelry store, we have very specific gemological accreditations that we expect our people to maintain and to achieve fairly early on in their time here. Mm-hmm. So to answer your question, how do I find those people? Then I'm kind of going backwards in the way that you ask those questions, but how we find those, I remember as I bring my coworkers with me sometimes as I attend industry events. One of my friends who owns a store in another state said to me, he said, every time I meet one of your people, I just really like your people. How do you find such good people? And I said, honestly, it's probably not a good way to hire, but I just hire people that I like. And, it's because in a small business, you're spending time with them. That at the very core of it, it's like the most basic thing you can do. Hire people you want to be around, because you do. The sad reality is you spend more time with those people in many cases than you do with your own family. It should be people you like. It should be good human beings. Yeah. I can teach them jewelry. I can't necessarily teach sales. People have sales or they don't sales ability, or they don't have sales ability. But I can teach you about jewelry. It takes time, and any good salesperson always thinks, oh, I can sell anything. Jewelry is a very humbling thing to sell, because there's a base knowledge that can take years to learn, and learning how to handle clients and build collectors and things like that is a different process than some other organizations. But I think at the core of it, Mike, is that I just find people I like, and I think we go from there.
Well, it's interesting. It's like, I like the idea. What you're saying is the mentoring, taking somebody, I like their personality, I like who they are, I know they can do well in this industry. Let me teach them. They have a baseline, but I'm going to teach them. I'm going to mentor them to show them ways to improve their skills, talking, understanding what they're doing, and sending them to, I assume, classes or things that they can go to basically learn more about it. So then when they're talking to customers or doing whatever part they're doing in the organization, they understand what they need to do, and they learn it over time. So it's kind of nice to see that you are wanting to see people learn, educate them, and to be the best at what they do. So
yeah, you know what gave me the freedom to do that, ironically, was COVID. We all had our downtime during COVID, and when my team was home, it was like, what can I expect of them while they're at home and we're not together? And we just did this gemological accreditation. So some of us were doing it anyway beforehand, but it was a way for us to implement that as part of our training program, to say, okay, this is a new non-negotiable. You must achieve these classes these designations from the Gemological Institute of America and the American Gem Society. So all of my people, even new hires after, say, their first 3 or 4 months, are all title holders from those organizations. And I feel like that matters, having just a base knowledge of your trade, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
There are organizations for probably every industry that do what those two organizations do for ours. It's just essential to learn beyond these four walls and what I can teach them, just to know about the foundation of what it is that they're actually selling.
Well, it's good to hear that somebody got a positive out of COVID and the lockdown.
Oh, we got a lot. I mean, it changed my business a lot in a lot of good ways. In some bad ways too. Don't get me wrong, but you know,
right.
I don't want to do it again.
No. None of us want to do that again. And I'm glad that you found ways, and that's something about you that is very unique. And to an owner, and to most owners, is that you're always thinking about how do we, even when the downtime, even the bad times or the good times, you're still looking at ways to improve and figure out what is to be better and lead your team. And I think that's great that you didn't say, well, we can't do anything, or we'll see you in a couple of weeks, whatever, how long we're going to be. But you had to adjust and figure out what you could use your time best during that time, so that when you come back, you're actually a lot better. Your employees, the people that work with you, are better than they were before all this happened. So
yeah, we definitely did that.
So how did you? So when you look at that and you step back, even let's go back in time, is like when you bought the business or you were looking to buy this thing. I mean, that's got to be a big thing, because you were around 36 years old or something like that, and it's like, okay, you're going to buy a jewelry business, and I'm just curious, for people that are out there looking to buy a business or something that's unique like jewelry, how did you go through that process? How did that work to where you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do, and you had a 10-year plan, which you got done in less than eight and a half years. So walk through that a little bit about why you decided to buy it, and then how was it structured to even be possible to do that?
Well, I'm a sentimental guy, and to have the opportunity to own the jewelry store that I essentially grew up in, there's no way that wasn't going to happen for me. I mean, and for multiple reasons. Not only was the store important to me, but in 3 years, this store is going to be 100 years old. There are not a lot of businesses in Bloomington Normal, let alone Central Illinois, let alone the state of Illinois, that are going to make it to 100 years old. Yeah. And so knowing that and appreciating what this store means to this community, that's never, ever lost on me. That's really important to me to carry on Mr. Lewis's legacy, to carry on John Woolman's legacy, who bought the store from Mr. Lewis. And then me to be the third person in that lineage is extremely important to me. And so how that happened, your question of how, would be, I would answer that by saying that I've been really blessed to have multiple mentors put in my path, people who took me under their wing when they didn't need to, people who taught me the industry, from one mentor on the wholesale side, one mentor from the retail side, which is John Woolman here, who studied under Jack Lewis. So, it just carries on. And those things, to have a mentor in place is absolutely essential. Whether you're grooming somebody to take over your business or you're grooming somebody to succeed in your business, being a mentor is good business. It is not just because it's good for your business. It goes back to, again, being a good human being and passing down what you know. There's no way I would be sitting in this office, in this chair, owning my own store and enjoying the success that we've had if people hadn't allowed me to make mistakes with their money. That's sometimes the reality of being a mentor in business, is you have to give them the freedom to make mistakes. Yeah. And so it's really important. And so the structuring of it is probably too complicated for a short podcast, right? But I'd talk to you about it sometime. But what I always tell everybody, particularly in our industry, is if you have somebody like John, who is bringing me up as his heir apparent to buy the store someday, I always tell my friends that are in similar situations, usually it's a family, but usually I'm telling the parents, you have to be willing to give up more than you think you're going to make this happen for the next generation.
Right.
Everybody looks at it and thinks, my name is worth so much money. My website is worth so much money. My physical front door is worth so much money. It's never worth what you think it is.
Yeah.
It's the people that drive your business, and we don't put enough value on that sometimes, and that's really important when it comes to valuing your own business.
No, I think that's a good point. It was interesting. I talked to somebody yesterday. I was at a meeting, and they were talking about, oh, I have this person who's looking to sell their business, and it was funny. They're like, and you can tell they're very like attached to it, and they're just like, it's worth all this, and it's doing this. It's like, that's great, but we need to, when it's the owner, or it's, if for you it's only been 3 generations, or if it's a 1 generation owner, everyone holds so tightly to what it's worth and what they think it's worth, what their customer list is worth.
Well, and what they think their name is worth. Like they think the business name is worth $1 million. Yeah. And I promise you, you're never going to find a bank that's going to give you a loan for $1 million for a name.
Right.
I mean, maybe if it was Coke or Disney
right.
or something like that. But your name is important.
Yeah.
It's just not as financially valuable as you think that it's going
to be. For lending institutions.
If creating a legacy business is important to you, and seeing your business, you just want to run your business and then have it going out of business and then, close out your career. You can do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if your goal is to create a generational business that stands the test of time, that serves your community, that continues to employ people long after you've retired or left your business, then understanding the sacrifice that's necessary at the time of transition, in my experience,
right,
has been really crucial. Having done it myself and having seen dozens and dozens of my friends go through it in my trade.
And one of the things, one last thing on this topic is talking about it is what I've told people too is as they're looking to probably purchase or look, there's a succession plan, the person that's going to take it over, they have to somewhat be in a good standing financially. I have talked to people before where they wanted to buy something and then their credit's bad, they have their debt to income ratio, it's a mess, and it's like it's going to be very tough for that to happen because in order to do that, banks are not going to be able to loan you that, and no one else is feeling comfortable to do that.
It's a process that takes years of preparation. You mentioned earlier we had a 10-year plan. We did have a 10-year plan. We were able to do it in 8.5 years because you're thinking about things like that on the backside. You're keeping your own house in order if you're the buyer, and the seller has to do the same thing because you don't want to buy a messy business,
right?
And so yeah, you're right, man. It's people. You can't just roll out of bed one day and say I'm going to sell it to this person that's worked here for 15 years. It's got to be more than that.
Yeah. Now, planning definitely. It seems like planning was essential in what you did, and with the planning, and one last topic to kind of hit is like I've noticed over the last several years or even more about your marketing, your strategy towards that, because I think out there you had talked about in the past that you kind of made it. What was the phrase? Made a what is that engagement? The engagement ring the destination, or how to say that again? What was your marketing direction, if you know what I'm talking about?
Well, we wanted, when I bought the store, we wanted to transition. We were at that time we were probably more of an anniversary store, which meant that we were selling bigger diamonds, right? For somebody who had been married for 15 or 20 years, wanted a 2 or 3 carat, and we still sell those. We still sell plenty of those, but my goal was to not just be a store for that. I wanted to be a bridal or an engagement ring store. And sometimes that's a young couple who's just starting out who has $500 to spend on an engagement ring. What I said before, I truly mean. I don't, that's not just lip service. This is a store that's here to serve our entire community. I want to help that couple start off their process together. So that was important to me to shape our inventory so that my marketing message matched that promise. Meaning, we don't care. You're talking about the marketing messages early on, where we don't care how much you spend. We just want you to focus on why you're spending it. Then now we say, because size doesn't matter, love matters. We're in the symbolism business to help people celebrate the person they love the most in the world with a beautiful diamond. and that can be $500, it can be $500,000, it can
Yeah.
be whatever. And we still want to straddle that sphere of being a luxury retail jeweler, because we are a luxury retail jeweler, but we also want to be early on in our clients' relationships together, maybe when they're just starting out. And so that's been really important. And when we started to shape that marketing message, we really started to see that traffic tick, and we went almost immediately, Mike. We went from an anniversary store to overnight. We were a bridal store destination. I don't want to say overnight, but it took about. I thought it would take 3 to 5 years. It took about one
Yeah.
to really start to see that was the majority of what our diamonds and engagement ring sales were.
So basically, what it sounds like, which is great, and to hear, is when you were originally, as you started involved in Jack Lewis Jewelers, and as you grew and you bought it, it was the sentiment, the goal is to be part of the community. And it seems like it's now is going all the way through your marketing too. Is like you basically said, hey, this is who I am, and this is how I want people to feel. And which is great. It's like who you are is what you're trying to have other people, have the community feel like, hey, I can come in there. It's not just for this group or that group. It's like anybody. This is basically you're doing it because you want to, and it's more the emotion and more the nostalgia, I guess.
Yeah, one of my mentors said to me when I was young, he said, "Congratulations, you work in an industry where people come to see you almost exclusively to celebrate happy occasions."
Mm-hmm.
And there aren't a lot of industries that you can say that in. And occasionally there's, to commemorate a loss or something like that. That does happen. But even then, it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's not lost on me. That is really important to me to play that role in our clients' lives and our community, really. Sometimes it's a customer, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just helping our community through a tough time or helping our community celebrate a happy occasion. There's lots of instances of that. And I'm just really lucky. I'm really blessed. I really, I thank God that I'm in this role. I love this. I love this business. I love my business specifically, and I love what it represents. And I love that we're going to be here for a long time. Almost 100 years is a pretty huge deal.
That is. So when is 100 years coming up?
In 3 years, it'll be. Jack founded the store in 1927.
Yeah. So a big celebration, or what do you guys have
Stay
something
tuned.
planned?
Stay tuned.
That is good. Well, it's exciting to know that we'll get to 100, and it'll be exciting to see what's coming up for Jack Lewis Jewelers. And John, thank you for your time. It's exciting to hear more about who you are and what the business is, and also just being part of this community, which is so important. I think is lost at times with other where companies. They need to be more part of the community and have more stake in it and be part of what's going on. And I appreciate you and appreciate what you have done over the years. So,
Thanks for having me, buddy. It was a lot of fun.
yeah.